People make you angry. They frustrate you. They annoy you. They disrespect you. They disappoint you. At least that's what you believe. That others have power to disturb your peace, to trigger your anger, to control your emotional state through their actions and words. This belief is fundamentally wrong, and it's costing you dearly. Your anger damages relationships. Your irritation wastes energy. Your emotional reactivity gives others power over you. You're constantly disturbed by things you can't control. This is unnecessary suffering you're creating through misunderstanding of how emotions work. The truth is simple but transformative. No one can make you angry. No one can bother you. Your anger is your response, not their action. Your irritation is your interpretation, not their behavior. You create your emotional state through how you perceive and respond to external events. This means you have complete control over whether you get angry or bothered. This isn't just philosophy, it's practical reality. Some people get angry at things others barely notice. Same situation, different responses. The difference isn't in the situation. It's in the person's perception and response pattern. You can develop patterns that make you virtually unshakable, where others' actions simply don't trigger anger or disturbance. Think about your life right now. How often do you get angry? How frequently do others bother you? How much energy do you waste on irritation and frustration? For most people, honest assessment reveals substantial emotional reactivity. They're constantly disturbed by others, and you're constantly angry about things outside their control. This reactivity creates suffering. Anger feels terrible. Being bothered is unpleasant. These emotional states don't help you. They don't solve problems. They don't make situations better. They just make you miserable while often making situations worse. Your anger damages relationships. People avoid angry people. They walk on eggshells. They distance themselves. Your anger pushes away the connection you want. It creates fear and resentment rather than respect and love. Your anger also gives others power over you. When someone can make you angry, they control you. They can trigger your emotional state at will. You're not free. You're a puppet whose strings they can pull anytime. This is weakness disguised as strength. Beyond relationships, anger hurts you physically. It raises blood pressure, increases stress hormones, creates tension, damages health. You're literally poisoning yourself with anger while often harming the target not at all. This audiobook is about ending this pattern, learning to never get angry or bothered by anyone, not through suppression or denial, through genuine emotional mastery that makes anger unnecessary, through understanding that creates peace regardless of external circumstances. We'll explore 10 essential dimensions of emotional mastery, understanding that others can't make you angry, recognizing anger as your interpretation, choosing your response consciously, developing emotional detachment without coldness, seeing others' behavior as information, not insult, releasing need for others to be different, accepting what you can't control, building unshakable inner peace, responding to provocations strategically, and maintaining equanimity under pressure. These aren't suppression techniques. They're genuine transformations in how you relate to others and process experience. Each dimension addresses a specific aspect of emotional reactivity. Together, they create comprehensive mastery that makes anger and disturbance optional rather than automatic. But I need to be honest. Developing this mastery is difficult. Your ego wants to be angry. Your habits are deeply ingrained. Your pride resists seeing anger as your problem rather than others' fault. Social conditioning supports reactive anger. Overcoming all this requires real work. Most people won't do this work. They'll continue being angry, continue letting others disturb them, continue suffering unnecessarily. They'll justify their anger, blame others for triggering it, and remain emotionally reactive throughout their lives. Can you do the work? Can you take responsibility for your emotional state? Can you develop mastery over your reactions? If yes, then freedom from anger becomes possible. If no, then you'll continue being controlled by others' actions. Because here's the truth. As long as others can make you angry, you're not free. You're controlled by external factors. Real freedom is emotional sovereignty, being undisturbed regardless of what others do, having peace that doesn't depend on others behaving how you want. Right now, your anger and disturbance are probably costing you. energy wasted on irritation, relationships damaged by reactions, health harmed by chronic anger, peace destroyed by constant disturbance, all unnecessary, all preventable through emotional mastery. This continues until you develop control over your emotional state, until you learn that no one can make you angry without your consent, until you build capacity for peace regardless of circumstances. 6 months from now, you could be emotionally unshakable. Others' actions wouldn't trigger anger. Provocations wouldn't disturb you. You'd respond from calm center rather than reactive emotion, all because you developed emotional mastery. Or you could still be reactive, still getting angry easily, still bothered by others constantly, still giving away your peace. The difference is whether you do the work to master your emotions. This is your opportunity, not to become emotionless or uncaring, but to become emotionally sovereign, to develop mastery that makes anger optional, to build peace that's unshakable, to transform from reactive to responsive. Stop letting others make you angry. Stop giving them power over your emotional state. Stop suffering unnecessarily. Start developing emotional mastery. Start building unshakable peace. Let's learn exactly how to do that. Let's master emotions. Let's become unshakable. How to never get angry or bothered by anyone. The work starts now. Chapter 1. Understand that others can't make you angry. This is the foundation, the core truth that everything else builds on. Others cannot make you angry. They can do things you don't like. They can behave badly. They can be disrespectful. But they cannot reach into your mind and create anger. Your anger is your response, not their action. Most people believe the opposite. He made me so angry. She really bothered me. They made me lose my temper. This language reveals the belief that others control your emotions, that they have power to create anger in you. This belief is the root of all emotional reactivity. Once you understand that others can't make you angry, everything changes. You stop blaming them for your emotional state. You take responsibility for your responses. You recognize that your anger is choice, not inevitable consequence of their actions. Let me explain why others can't make you angry. First, anger is interpretation, not direct result of action. Someone does something. You interpret it as offensive, disrespectful, or wrong. That interpretation generates anger, but the interpretation is yours, not theirs. They provided action. You provided interpretation. Different people interpret same action differently. One person sees insult, gets angry. Another sees ignorance, feels pity. Third sees nothing significant, feels nothing. Same action, different interpretations, different emotions. This proves the emotion comes from interpretation, not action. If action directly caused emotion, everyone would have same emotional response to same action. They don't. Therefore, action doesn't cause emotion. Interpretation does. When interpretation is yours. Second, between stimulus and response, there's a gap. Action happens. Before you respond emotionally, there's a moment where you process it. In that moment, interpretation occurs. This interpretation determines emotional response. Most people aren't aware of this gap. Interpretation happens so quickly it feels automatic, but gap exists. With awareness and practice, you can expand it. You can intercept automatic interpretation and choose different one. This gap is your power. In that space, you decide what action means and how to respond. No one else controls what happens in that gap. You do. Third, if others could make you angry, you'd have no control. You'd be puppet controlled by everyone around you. Anyone could pull your strings anytime. This would be horrible fate, but it's not reality. As you've experienced not being angry at things that usually anger you, perhaps you were in good mood, or situation was unimportant, or you were focused elsewhere. Same type of action, no anger. This inconsistency proves others don't control your anger. Your state and interpretation do. Fourth, children learn emotional responses. They're not born with specific anger triggers. They learn through observation and conditioning what to get angry about. Different cultures get angry about different things. This learned nature proves anger is response pattern, not inevitable reaction. Since response patterns are learned, they can be unlearned. You can learn new patterns. This is crucial understanding. Your current reactivity isn't fixed, it's habitual. Habits can change. Fifth, some people rarely get angry, not because nothing bad happens to them, and because they've developed different response patterns. They interpret events differently. They respond differently. If circumstances determined anger, these people would be angry like everyone else. They're not. This proves circumstances don't determine anger. You can become one of these people, not by avoiding everything that currently triggers you, by changing how you interpret and respond, by developing patterns that don't generate anger. Here's the key understanding. The chain is, event happens to you, interpret event too. Interpretation generates emotion, to you experience emotion. Others control first step. You control all other steps. They provide event. You provide interpretation and emotional response. Taking responsibility for interpretation and response is empowering. It means you're not victim of others' actions, or you're agent who decides what things mean and how to respond. This shifts power from external to internal, but ego resists this understanding. Ego wants to blame others. They made me angry absolves you of responsibility. I made myself angry by how I interpreted and responded requires taking responsibility. Ego prefers blame to responsibility. Pride also resists. Admitting your anger is your response, not their fault, can feel like admitting weakness, but it's actually admitting strength. You're acknowledging your power over your emotional state. Social conditioning reinforces the belief that others make you angry. He made me mad is normal language. I made myself mad by how I responded to him. Sounds strange, but second statement is accurate. First is false. Or here's what understanding others can't make you angry looks like in practice. Someone does something you dislike. Your automatic interpretation starts. That's disrespectful. I should be angry. You catch this. You recognize it's your interpretation. You consider alternatives. Maybe they didn't realize. Maybe it's not about me. Maybe it doesn't matter. You choose interpretation that doesn't generate anger. Or you acknowledge anger generating interpretation, but choose not to act on resulting emotion. Either way, you don't become angry. Not because action didn't happen, because you took responsibility for your response. This is radically different from automatic reactivity. Automatic, action happens to anger arises instantly to, you react from anger. Unconscious. Action happens arrow. You notice interpretation starting arrow. You choose interpretation and response arrow. You stay calm. This understanding is foundation. Without it, techniques for managing anger are just suppression. With it, you recognize anger is optional. You're choosing it through your interpretation and response patterns. You can choose differently. Here's your practice. For 1 week, catch yourself saying or thinking others made you angry or bothered. Stop. Correct. I made myself angry by how I interpreted what they did. This linguistic shift reinforces accurate understanding. Also notice when you're not angry about things that usually trigger you. What's different? Probably your interpretation or your state. This noticing proves anger is your response, not their action. This understanding changes everything. Once you truly know others can't make you angry, you stop giving them that power. You take responsibility for your emotional state. This is first step toward never being angry or bothered. Understand that others can't make you angry. Anger is interpretation, not direct result. There's gap between stimulus and response. If others controlled your anger, you'd be helpless puppet. Emotional responses are learned patterns. Some people rarely get angry despite circumstances. The chain is event, interpretation, emotion, experience. Take responsibility for your part. Ego and pride resist, but understanding is empowering. Chapter 2. Recognize anger as your interpretation. Anger isn't triggered by events themselves. It's triggered by your interpretation of events. This distinction is crucial. Events are neutral until you assign meaning. Your interpretation of meaning determines whether anger arises. Same event can be interpreted multiple ways, generating different emotions or none. Most people don't realize they're interpreting. They think they're seeing reality directly. Someone cuts them off in traffic. They don't think I'm interpreting this as disrespectful. They think that was disrespectful. Interpretation feels like perception of fact, but it's not. It's layer of meaning you're adding. Understanding that anger comes from interpretation, not from events, gives you power to change interpretation and therefore change emotional response. But you can't control events. You can control interpretation. This control is key to emotional mastery. Let me teach you how to recognize interpretation and change it. First, learn to distinguish event from interpretation. Event is factual description. He interrupted me. Interpretation is meaning added. He interrupted me because he doesn't respect me. First is observation. Second is mind reading and meaning making. Practice separating these. When angry, ask what actually happened versus what story am I telling about what happened. Usually story contains interpretation that generates anger. Actual event might be neutral. Second, recognize common interpretative patterns that generate anger. Disrespect. They're disrespecting me. Injustice. That's not fair. Wrongness. They shouldn't do that. Intentional harm. 8. They're trying to hurt me. These interpretations trigger anger. Notice your habitual patterns. What interpretations do you automatically make? These patterns are where work needs to happen. You can't change what you're not aware of. Third, question the interpretation. Is it only possible interpretation? Are there alternatives? He interrupted because he doesn't respect me is one interpretation. Alternatives. He's excited about topic. He has poor social skills. He didn't realize he was interrupting. He's distracted. Generating alternatives breaks automatic interpretation. You realize your interpretation is choice, not fact. This creates space to choose different interpretation. Fourth, look for benign interpretations. Most actions have both negative and benign interpretations possible. Benign interpretations don't generate anger. But he's having a bad day doesn't trigger anger like he's disrespecting me does. This isn't lying to yourself. It's acknowledging that you don't actually know their intention. Given uncertainty, you can choose interpretation that serves you rather than one that disturbs you. Fifth, consider that their behavior is about them, not about you. Most people's actions are driven by their own issues, needs, insecurities. It's rarely actually about you. When you take it personally, you're misinterpreting their behavior as being directed at you when it's actually about them. He's rude because of his own issues creates different response than he's rude to me specifically because I deserve disrespect. Second interpretation generates anger. First generates compassion or indifference. Sixth, examine the should thinking. And an anger often comes from believing others should behave differently. He shouldn't have done that, but should according to whom? Your preferences aren't universal laws. Others will sometimes behave in ways you dislike. This is reality. Releasing should thinking reduces anger. Replace he shouldn't have with I prefer he hadn't, but he did. First generates anger at violation of your imagined rule. Second acknowledges reality without additional suffering. Seventh, notice when you're making things mean something about you. She canceled plans because she doesn't value me. Maybe she canceled because something came up. Making it about your value is interpretation that generates hurt and anger. Most things aren't about you. People are dealing with their own lives. When you stop making everything about you, much less triggers anger. So 8, recognize projection. Sometimes you interpret others' behavior through lens of your own issues. You're insecure about competence, so you interpret feedback as attack on your competence. Your interpretation is projecting your insecurity onto their action. Becoming aware of projection helps you see that your interpretation is about you, not about their action. This awareness creates space to choose different interpretation. Ninth, test your interpretation. Is there evidence for it? Often, anger-generating interpretations are assumptions without evidence. He thinks I'm stupid based on one comment. That's huge interpretation built on tiny evidence. Requiring evidence for interpretations reduces anger-generating ones. Most don't have solid evidence. They're assumptions. Treating them as such rather than facts reduces anger. 10th, to practice interpretative flexibility. For any situation, generate 3 different interpretations. Negative interpretation, neutral interpretation, positive interpretation. This exercise trains your mind that multiple interpretations always exist. With practice, this flexibility becomes automatic. You naturally see multiple possibilities rather than fixing on single anger-generating interpretation. Here's what this looks like in practice. Someone gives you critical feedback. Automatic interpretation. They're attacking me. They think I'm incompetent. This is disrespectful. This generates anger. You catch the interpretation. You question it. Is that only way to see this? Alternatives. They're trying to help. They see potential and want me to improve. They're being honest, which shows respect. These interpretations don't generate anger. It's you don't know which interpretation is true. Their actual intention is unclear. Given this uncertainty, you choose interpretation that doesn't disturb you. They're offering perspective that might be useful. No anger arises. Same event, different interpretation, different emotion. This demonstrates that anger comes from interpretation, not from event. Change interpretation, change emotion. Compared to automatic reactivity, critical feedback arrives. Automatic interpretation triggers. Anger arises instantly. You react from anger. Relationship damages. You never questioned interpretation, never considered alternatives, never recognized you had choice. Here's your practice. This week, every time you feel anger starting, stop. Ask, what interpretation am I making? Write it down, then generate 3 alternative interpretations. Must choose one that doesn't generate anger. This practice builds awareness of interpretation and flexibility in choosing. Over time, automatic interpretations lose power. You realize you're interpreting, not perceiving truth. This realization is freedom from automatic anger. Recognize anger as your interpretation. Distinguish event from interpretation. Notice common anger-generating patterns. Question the interpretation. Look for benign alternatives. See their behavior as about them. Examine should thinking. Don't make things about you. Notice projection. Test interpretations. Practice flexibility. Chapter 3. Choose your response consciously. Between stimulus and response, there's space. In that space lies your freedom, your power to choose response rather than react automatically. Most people react without realizing choice exists. Their response is automatic pattern triggered by circumstance. Mastering emotions requires claiming that space and using it to choose response. Response versus reaction is crucial distinction. Reaction is automatic, unconscious, habitual. Response is conscious, chosen, intentional. Reaction happens to you. Response is created by you. Reaction makes you victim of circumstances. Response makes you agent directing your experience. When you react with anger, you're not choosing. You're being controlled by automatic patterns. When you respond with conscious choice, you're in control. And this shift from reaction to response is transformation from emotional slavery to emotional mastery. Let me teach you how to choose your response consciously. First, create pause before responding. When something happens that would usually trigger anger, pause. Count to 5. Take breath. Create space between stimulus and response. This pause is where choice happens. Without pause, automatic reaction takes over. With pause, conscious choice becomes possible. This simple pause is one of most powerful emotional mastery practices. Second, during pause, notice what you're feeling. I'm feeling anger starting. This noticing creates separation between you and emotion. You're not the anger, you're person observing anger arising. This observer position creates power to choose. Without noticing, you identify with emotion. Or I am angry. With noticing, you observe emotion. I am experiencing anger. Second position creates choice, first doesn't. Third, in that pause, remember you have choice. Remind yourself, I don't have to react from anger. I can choose my response. This reminder activates conscious choice rather than automatic reaction. Most people don't know choice exists. They think reaction is inevitable. Reminding yourself of choice makes it available. Fourth, consider what response would serve you, not what reaction feels satisfying in moment. What response would serve your values, relationships, and goals? Angry reaction often feels satisfying momentarily, but damages relationships and situations long-term. Ask, what response would I be proud of later? Usually not the automatic angry reaction, usually something calmer, more constructive. Fifth, choose specific response deliberately. I'm going to respond with curiosity instead of anger. I'm going to respond with calm statement of boundaries. I'm going to respond with humor. I'm going to respond with silence. Whatever you choose, choose it consciously. This deliberate choice is exercising agency. You're deciding rather than being decided by automatic patterns. Sixth, execute chosen response. Having chosen, act on it. This takes discipline. Automatic reaction wants to take over. Chosen response requires conscious execution. Do it anyway. Each time you execute chosen response over automatic reaction, you strengthen new pattern. Over time, chosen response becomes more natural. Seventh, notice when you're about to react and redirect. You'll catch yourself mid-reaction sometimes. I'm about to yell. That's automatic reaction. I choose calm statement instead. This mid-course correction is victory. You're interrupting automatic pattern. Don't be discouraged by almost reactions. Catching them is progress. Each catch builds awareness and control. Eighth, prepare responses in advance for predictable situations. You know certain situations typically trigger anger. Prepare conscious response in advance. When my coworker does that, I will respond by pre-deciding makes conscious response easier in moment. You don't have to improvise response under emotional pressure. You've already decided, you just execute prepared response. Ninth, practice response choice in low-stakes situations. Don't start with most triggering situations. Practice with mild annoyances. Build capability with smaller challenges. Then tackle larger ones. Yet this progressive practice develops skill. You become better at choosing responses. Eventually, even major provocations become manageable. 10th, review your responses. After situations, reflect. Did you react or respond? If you reacted, what would conscious response have been? If you responded, how did it go? This reflection builds learning. Without reflection, you repeat patterns without improvement. With reflection, you continuously improve response choice. Here's what conscious response looks like. Someone says something insulting. You feel anger starting. You pause. You notice the anger. You remember you have choice. You consider what response serves you. You choose calm inquiry. What did you mean by that? You execute chosen response. The insult didn't generate automatic angry outburst. You chose different response. This choice prevented escalation, protected relationship, and maintained your peace. Same stimulus, different response, different outcome. Compare to automatic reaction, same insult, automatic anger flares. You react immediately. Insult returned. Argument escalates. Relationship damages. Later you regret reaction. But in moment, no choice was perceived or exercised. The difference between these scenarios is pause and choice. That's it. Simple but transformative. Here's your practice. This week, focus on creating pause before responding to anything that triggers anger. Even 1-second pause is enough. During pause, notice feeling, remember choice, consider what serves you, choose response, execute. Track how many times you successfully pause and choose versus automatically react. Success rate will increase with practice. Each successful conscious response builds capability. Over time, conscious response becomes natural. The pause happens automatically. Choice becomes obvious. Responses align with values and goals rather than automatic patterns. This is emotional mastery. Choose your response consciously. Create pause before responding. Notice what you're feeling. Remember you have choice. Consider what serves you. Choose specific response. Execute chosen response. Catch and redirect reactions. Prepare responses for predictable situations. Practice in low-stakes situations. Review your responses. Chapter 4. Develop emotional detachment without coldness. Emotional detachment sounds like being cold, uncaring, or distant. That's not what I mean. Healthy emotional detachment is having appropriate psychological distance from others' behavior and opinions while still caring about them. It's not letting others' actions control your emotional state while remaining warm and connected. Detachment means recognizing that others' behavior is about them, not about you. That their opinions don't define your worth. That their moods don't determine yours. That their problems aren't yours to solve. This detachment creates peace without creating isolation. Many people swing between extremes, either over-involved and emotionally reactive, or completely withdrawn and cold. Healthy detachment is middle path, connected but not enmeshed, caring but not controlled. This balance is key to never being bothered by anyone. Let me teach you healthy emotional detachment. First, separate others' feelings from yours. Their anger doesn't require your anger. Their anxiety doesn't require your anxiety. Their drama doesn't require your participation. You can care about their feelings without taking them on yourself. This separation is boundary. I care about you and I'm not responsible for managing your emotions. This caring detachment allows genuine support without emotional merger. Second, recognize that others' behavior reveals their state, not your value. When someone is rude, it reveals their stress, insecurity, or lack of skill. It doesn't reveal your unworthiness of respect. Detaching from taking their behavior personally protects your peace. How they treat me shows who they are, not who I am. This understanding creates detachment from needing their treatment to affirm your worth. Third, accept that you can't control others. Really accept it. Not intellectually acknowledge while still trying to control. Truly accept. When you genuinely accept that others will do what they do, regardless of your preferences, detachment naturally follows. Fighting reality of others' autonomy creates suffering. Accepting it creates peace. Detachment is acceptance of what you can't control. Fourth, let others have their experience without trying to fix it. Friend is upset. You don't have to fix it or absorb their upset. You can be present without taking on their emotional state. I'm here for you, without I must make you feel better. This allowing them their experience without needing to fix creates healthy detachment. You're available but not enmeshed. Fifth, don't make others' opinions about you define you. They have opinions, that's fine. Their opinions are their mental activity. They don't determine your reality. Detachment from needing external validation creates stability. They think what they think. I know what I know about myself. This detachment from external definition is freedom. Sixth, observe others rather than absorb them. Be interested observer of human behavior rather than emotional absorber. That's interesting that they responded that way, rather than their response upsets me. This observer position creates psychological distance without emotional coldness. You're engaged but detached. A seventh, focus on your responses, not their actions. Their actions are data. Your responses are your responsibility. Keeping focus on your side of interaction creates detachment from their side. You can't control what they do. You can control what you do. Accepting this creates healthy detachment. Eighth, practice equanimity, equal-mindedness toward pleasant and unpleasant. Others are pleasant, you're appreciative but not attached. Others are unpleasant, you're undisturbed but not indifferent. This balance is detachment. Praise doesn't inflate you. Criticism doesn't deflate you. Both are received with equanimity. This is detached stability. Ninth, care without caretaking. Caring is compassion for others. Caretaking is taking responsibility for their experience. Well, you can care deeply while maintaining boundary that their experience is theirs to manage. I care about you and you're capable of handling your situation. This is caring detachment. 10th, maintain your center regardless of others' energy. They're chaotic, you're calm. They're angry, you're peaceful. They're anxious, you're steady. Your state doesn't mirror theirs. This is detachment. Not because you don't care, because you're centered in yourself rather than reactive to their energy. Here's what healthy detachment looks like. Someone is angry at you. You recognize their anger is their emotional state. You don't take it on. You don't become angry back. You don't become anxious trying to fix their anger. You remain calm. You're available if they want to communicate constructively. You're not absorbing their emotional state. You care about them. You're not cold, but you're detached from their anger controlling your state. This detachment allows you to respond helpfully rather than reactively. Compare to lack of detachment. Same angry person. You immediately take on their anger. Mirror it with your own anger. Or absorb it anxiously. Your state is determined by their state. You're enmeshed. This creates suffering for both. Also compare to cold detachment. Same angry person. You feel nothing. You don't care. You dismiss them. This isn't healthy detachment. This is disconnection. It protects you but damages relationship. Healthy detachment is middle path. You care. You're affected. but you're not controlled. You maintain your center while remaining open to them. Here's your practice. This week, notice when you're taking on others' emotional states. When you're making their behavior about you. When you're trying to control their experience. In each case, create detachment. Their feeling is theirs. Their behavior is about them. Their experience is theirs. Practice observer position. I notice they're angry. I'm not taking on their anger. This practice builds healthy detachment that allows peace without coldness. Develop emotional detachment without coldness. Separate others' feelings from yours. See their behavior as revealing them, not you. Accept you can't control others. Let them have their experience. Don't let their opinions define you. Observe rather than absorb. Focus on your responses. Practice equanimity. Care without caretaking. Maintain your center. Chapter 5. See others' behavior as information, not insult. How you frame others' behavior determines your emotional response. Frame it as insult or attack, you get angry. Frame it as information about them, you stay curious. This reframing from insult to information is powerful practice for preventing anger. Most negative behavior isn't actually about you. It's about the other person's stress, insecurity, lack of skill, or personal issues. When you understand this, their behavior becomes information about their state rather than evaluation of your worth. This understanding prevents taking things personally. Even when behavior is directed at you, it still reveals more about them than about you. Secure, happy people don't lash out. People lash out from their own pain. Seeing this creates compassion rather than anger. Or at least neutrality rather than reactivity. Let me teach you to see behavior as information. First, when someone behaves badly, ask, what's going on with them? Instead of, why are they doing this to me? First question seeks to understand their state. Second personalizes and generates anger. What's going on with them? Might reveal they're stressed, scared, hurting, or lacking skills. This understanding creates very different response than, why are they attacking me? Second, recognize that secure people don't attack. When someone attacks, they're insecure. When someone puts you down, they feel inadequate. When someone is cruel, they're in pain. Their behavior is symptom of their internal state. Their attack reveals their insecurity, not my inadequacy. This reframe prevents taking attack personally. When you see information about their state, not insult to your worth. Third, notice that criticism often reveals the critic's values or issues, not your failures. If someone criticizes you for not working hard enough, it might reveal their value of work or their anxiety about productivity. If someone criticizes your choices, it reveals what they think matters. Their criticism is data about them. It might also contain useful feedback about you, but primarily it reveals their perspective, values, and concerns. Fourth, see rudeness as lack of skill or poor state, not intentional disrespect. Most rudeness isn't calculated insult. It's people operating from stress, distraction, or insufficient social skills. Seeing it this way prevents anger. They're having a hard time and don't have skills to handle it better, generates compassion. They're intentionally disrespecting me, generates anger. First is usually more accurate. Fifth, understand that others' anger is about their pain. Hurt people hurt people. When someone directs anger at you, they're expressing their own pain in an unskilled way. The pain is real. The expression is poor, but it's about their pain, not your unworthiness of respect. Their anger is their pain leaking out, prevents taking it personally. You're receiving their pain expression, not accurate evaluation of your worth. Sixth, treat others' opinions as their opinions, not facts about you. They think what they think based on their perspective, experience, and biases. Their opinions are information about their thinking. They're not truth about reality. That's what they think is different from, that's what I am. First is information. My second is false acceptance of their opinion as fact. Seventh, recognize projection. Often others criticize in you what they struggle with themselves, or attack in you what they fear in themselves. This projection is information about their internal conflicts, not accurate assessment of you. When you understand projection, criticism becomes transparent. You see their issues rather than your failures. Eighth, use empathy to understand underlying needs. Negative behavior often comes from unmet needs. They're aggressive because they feel unheard. They're critical because they need control. Understanding underlying need frames behavior as information about what they need, not attack on you. What need is driving this behavior creates understanding. Why are they attacking me? Creates defensiveness. Ninth, he is separate useful feedback from emotional noise. Sometimes behavior toward you contains a legitimate feedback wrapped in poor delivery. Extract useful information, discard emotional noise. They're right that I was late, though their expression was harsh. This separation allows learning from behavior without being disturbed by delivery. You get information value without emotional reactivity. 10th, remember everyone is doing best they can with resources they have. People with better emotional regulation, communication skills, and internal security behave better. People lacking these behave worse. Their behavior is information about their current capability level. This doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it prevents taking it personally. You see limitations rather than malice. Here's what this looks like. Someone snaps at you angrily. Once instead of thinking, they're attacking me, how dare they, you think they're stressed and don't have skills to manage it better. This reveals their state, not my inadequacy. You stay calm. You might address behavior if needed. I can see you're upset. Let's talk when you're calmer. But you're not angry because you didn't take it as insult. You saw it as information about their state. Compared to taking it personally, same snap. You interpret as attack on you. Anger flares. You snap back. Situation escalates. All because you saw insult instead of information. Here's your practice. This week, every time someone's behavior would normally trigger anger, stop. Ask, what information does this behavior give me about their current state? Reframe from insult to information. This practice changes how you experience others' behavior. When you become curious observer rather than reactive victim, behavior that would anger you becomes data you analyze. This analysis prevents anger while increasing understanding. See others' behavior as information, not insult. Ask what's going on with them. Recognize insecurity drives attacks. Criticism reveals critics' values. Rudeness shows poor state or skills. Anger expresses pain. Opinions are their thoughts, not your truth. Recognize projection. Understand underlying needs. Separate feedback from noise. Remember, everyone does best they can. Chapter 6. Release need for others to be different. Much anger comes from wanting others to be different than they are. You want them to be more considerate, more respectful, more competent, more like you think they should be. They're not. This gap between what you want and what is creates anger. The solution isn't changing them. You can't reliably change others. They change themselves or they don't. The solution is releasing need for them to be different, accepting them as they are. This acceptance doesn't mean approval. It means acknowledging reality without resistance. When you need others to be different, you're in constant conflict with reality. Reality is they are how they are. Your need for them to be different creates suffering but doesn't change them. Releasing need ends suffering without requiring change in them. Let me teach you to release need for others to be different. First, recognize you can't actually change others. You can influence. You can request. You can set boundaries. But you can't control others' choices and development. They change themselves or they don't. Accepting this releases futile effort to change them. Much anger comes from frustrated attempts to change others. When you stop trying, frustration ends. You work with who they are rather than fighting for them to be different. Second, distinguish between preferences and needs. You can prefer they be different. That's fine. But you don't need them to be different for you to be okay. Preference without need allows acceptance. I prefer they were more punctual, but I can work with their actual behavior is different from they must be punctual or I'm angry. First allows peace. Second guarantees anger. Third, accept that others have different values, priorities, and ways of being. They're not wrong for being different. They're different. Their way isn't your way. Neither is objectively better. They're just different. Releasing need for others to conform to your way creates space for acceptance of their way. This acceptance prevents anger at their differentness. Fourth, Realize you're also imperfect. You want acceptance for your imperfections? Extend same acceptance to others. Everyone is flawed, limited, and works in progress. Accepting this prevents anger at others' imperfections. They're imperfect like I'm imperfect creates compassion. They're imperfect and should be perfect creates anger. Fifth, see acceptance as strength, not weakness. Some think accepting others means being doormat. It doesn't. Acceptance is acknowledging reality. Boundaries are protecting yourself within reality. You can accept who they are while refusing to accept poor treatment. I accept you're not going to change, and I'm not accepting this treatment is both acceptance and boundary. These aren't contradictory. Sixth, stop trying to teach lessons through anger. Sometimes people think showing anger will make others change. It rarely does. It usually creates defensiveness or distance. If you want to influence change, anger is an effective method. Maybe if I'm angry enough, they'll change is false hope that perpetuates anger. Releasing this hope allows peace without requiring their change. Seventh, grieve what won't be. Sometimes need for others to be different is hope they'll be what you want. Parent will be supportive. Partner will be romantic. Friend will be reliable. When they won't, grieve the loss of hope. Let go of what won't be. Accept what is. This grief is necessary for acceptance. You can't accept reality while clinging to hope for different reality. Grieve, let go, accept. Eighth, focus on what you can control in relationship. You can control your behavior, your boundaries, your responses, your choices about engagement. This is enough. You don't need to control their behavior. Focusing on your control releases need for them to be different. You work with their actual behavior through your choices. Ninth, find peace in accepting imperfection. Perfect people don't exist. Perfect relationships don't exist. Everyone is flawed. Every relationship is imperfect. Peace comes from accepting imperfection, not from achieving perfection. This relationship is imperfect, and that's okay, is peaceful. This relationship must be perfect, is angry. 10th, remember accepting doesn't mean staying. You can accept who someone is while choosing not to be in relationship with them. Acceptance of their nature doesn't require accepting their treatment or maintaining connection. I accept this is who you are, and I'm choosing to distance myself honors both acceptance and self-protection. Here's what this looks like. Your coworker is always late. You've wanted them to change. They haven't. You release need for them to be different. You accept their late person. You adjust your behavior. Schedule meetings with buffer. Don't count on their punctuality. Stop being angry about their lateness. Nothing changed in their behavior. Everything changed in your experience. You released need for them to be different. Accepted reality. Adjusted accordingly. Anger disappeared. Compared to continuing need. You keep being angry they're late. Keep hoping they'll change. Keep being disappointed. Nothing changes in their behavior. You're chronically angry. This anger hurts you without changing them. Here's your practice. Identify one person you're chronically angry at or bothered by. What do you need them to be different about? Can you actually change this? If not, can you release need for change and accept reality? Practice acceptance. They are who they are. I accept this. I'll adjust my behavior accordingly. Notice how this acceptance affects your emotional state. Usually it creates peace even though they're unchanged. Release need for others to be different. Recognize you can't change others. Why distinguish preferences from needs? Accept different values and ways. Remember your own imperfections. See acceptance as strength. Stop trying to teach with anger. Grieve what won't be. Focus on what you control. Find peace in imperfection. Remember, accepting doesn't mean staying. Chapter 7. Accept what you can't control. Anger often comes from resistance to things outside your control. Others' choices, past events, circumstances beyond your influence. Fighting uncontrollable reality creates suffering. Acceptance ends suffering without requiring reality to change. Acceptance doesn't mean liking what's happening, doesn't mean approval, doesn't mean giving up on changing what's changeable. Acceptance means acknowledging reality as it is, without resistance or denial. This acknowledgement creates peace. Most people intellectually know they can't control everything, but emotionally they resist uncontrollable. They fight reality with anger. This fight is source of tremendous unnecessary suffering. Learning true acceptance eliminates this suffering. Let me teach you to accept what you can't control. First, to clearly identify what's actually outside your control. Others' thoughts, feelings, and choices. Past events, most circumstances, much of the future. Most of life is outside your direct control. This is reality. Making peace with extent of what you can't control is essential. If you're fighting most of reality most of time, you'll be chronically angry. Accepting reality's scope creates space for peace. Second, practice the serenity prayer principle. Accept what you can't change. Change what you can. Wisdom to know difference. This simple framework prevents wasting energy fighting uncontrollable while empowering action on controllable. Most anger comes from fighting uncontrollable or being passive about controllable. Getting this distinction right is crucial. Third, when facing something uncontrollable, actively practice acceptance. Washi, this is what's happening. I don't like it. I can't change it. I accept it. This explicit acceptance releases resistance. Without explicit practice, mind keeps resisting automatically. Deliberate acceptance interrupts resistance pattern. Fourth, recognize that acceptance is often process, not single moment. You might need to accept same reality repeatedly as mind keeps resisting. I accept this said once doesn't necessarily mean acceptance complete. Keep accepting as resistance arises. This patience with acceptance process prevents frustration when acceptance doesn't stick immediately. Fifth, see acceptance as response to reality, not to injustice. Sometimes people resist acceptance thinking it means accepting injustice. Acceptance is acknowledging what is. You can accept reality while working to change injustice. Where acceptance doesn't prevent action, it prevents suffering during action. This injustice is real and I accept this reality while working to change it combines acceptance with commitment. Sixth, release should thinking about uncontrollable. This shouldn't have happened, but it did. They shouldn't be this way, but they are. Should thinking about uncontrollable reality creates anger. Replace shouldn't with is. This is what happened. They are this way. This linguistic shift supports acceptance. Seventh, find peace in accepting uncertainty. Much of what bothers you is uncertainty about future. You can't control or know future. Fighting this uncertainty creates anxiety and anger. Accepting uncertainty creates peace. I don't know how this will turn out, and that's okay, is acceptance of fundamental uncertainty. Eighth, practice acceptance of unchangeable past. Past is most uncontrollable thing that exists, yet people rage against it. This shouldn't have happened. But it did. No amount of anger changes past. Only acceptance allows peace. Every moment spent angry about unchangeable past is moment of unnecessary suffering. Acceptance ends this suffering. Ninth, accept others' autonomy. Others will make choices you disagree with. They have right to their choices even when you think they're wrong. Accepting their autonomy prevents anger at their choices. They have right to choose differently than I would is acceptance of autonomy that prevents anger. 10th, use acceptance to access equanimity. When you accept uncontrollable, you stop fighting reality. This creates equanimity, peaceful acknowledgement of what is. And this equanimity is foundation for never being angry or bothered. Fighting reality creates disturbance. Accepting reality creates peace. This is why acceptance is crucial. Here's what acceptance looks like. Your flight is delayed. You can't control this. Automatic response might be anger at airline, at situation, at universe. You catch this. You practice acceptance. The flight is delayed. I don't like it. I can't change it. I accept it. Anger dissipates. You adjust plans. Use waiting time productively. Same situation. Acceptance versus resistance creates completely different experience. Compared to non-acceptance, same delay. You rage at uncontrollable situation, complain, stew in anger. Nothing changes in situation. You're miserable. Your anger doesn't speed plane or improve experience. It just makes unpleasant situation worse. One, here's your practice. This week, notice when you're angry about something you can't control. Each time, explicitly practice acceptance. This is what is. I can't change it. I accept it. Notice how acceptance affects your emotional state. Also practice accepting people as they are. They are who they are. I accept this reality. This acceptance doesn't require liking or agreeing, just acknowledging reality without resistance. With repeated practice, acceptance becomes more automatic. Resistance decreases. Anger about uncontrollable decreases correspondingly. This creates profound peace. Accept what you can't control. Identify what's actually uncontrollable. Practice serenity prayer principle. Actively practice acceptance. Recognize acceptance as process. See acceptance as response to reality. Release should thinking. Accept uncertainty. Accept unchangeable past. Accept others' autonomy. Use acceptance to access equanimity. Chapter 8. Build unshakable inner peace. Preventing anger from arising is ultimately about building strong inner peace. When peace is stable and deep, external provocations don't disturb it. Others' behavior is like waves hitting rock. The waves come. The rock remains unmoved. Most people's peace is conditional and fragile. It depends on circumstances being pleasant and people behaving well. When circumstances aren't pleasant or people behave badly, peace disappears. This conditional peace is vulnerable to constant disturbance. Unshakable peace is unconditional. It exists regardless of circumstances. It persists despite others' behavior. This peace isn't achieved by controlling external factors. It's built through internal development. This is true protection from being bothered. Let me teach you to build unshakable peace. First, you develop regular contemplative practice. Meditation, prayer, reflection, whatever form works for you. Regular practice builds mental and emotional stability that supports peace. Without practice, mind stays reactive and peace stays fragile. Even 10 minutes daily makes significant difference. This practice trains mind to return to peace rather than staying in reactivity. Second, cultivate present moment awareness. Most disturbance comes from dwelling on past or worrying about future. Present moment is usually manageable. Staying present reduces disturbance. Right now, in this moment, what actually needs my attention? Usually present moment is okay, even when past was difficult or future is uncertain. Presence supports peace. Third, connect with something larger than personal concerns. Spirituality, nature, humanity, universe. Watch in whatever resonates. This connection provides perspective that reduces disturbance over small provocations. When connected to larger context, individual slights matter less. This perspective protects peace. Fourth, develop gratitude practice. Regular attention to what's working, what you have, what you appreciate. Gratitude shifts focus from problems to blessings. This shift supports peace even in imperfect circumstances. Gratitude and anger struggle to coexist. Cultivating gratitude crowds out anger. Fifth, build self-acceptance. Much external disturbance comes from internal self-rejection. When you're at peace with yourself, others' judgments matter less. Self-acceptance creates inner stability that external factors can't easily disturb. I accept myself as I am as foundation for unshakable peace. Without self-acceptance, a constantly seeking external validation creates vulnerability. Sixth, practice equanimity toward pleasant and unpleasant. Don't cling to pleasant. Don't resist unpleasant. Both are temporary. Equanimity toward both creates stable peace that doesn't fluctuate with circumstances. This too shall pass, applied to both good and bad, creates equanimity that supports peace. Seventh, cultivate compassion for yourself and others. Compassion is incompatible with anger. When you view others with genuine compassion, their behavior saddens you or moves you to help, but doesn't anger you. Compassion transforms how you experience others' negative behavior. It becomes call for compassion rather than provocation for anger. Eighth, simplify life where possible. Complexity creates stress that undermines peace. Simplicity in possessions, commitments, and relationships create space for peace. Not everyone can simplify everything, but most can simplify something. Less clutter, fewer obligations, and clearer boundaries all support peace. Ninth, build physical health that supports emotional stability. Sleep, exercise, nutrition. Physical health affects emotional stability. When physically depleted, emotional reactivity increases. When physically healthy, peace is more stable. Taking care of body is taking care of peace. They're connected. 10th, make peace your priority, not happiness dependent on circumstances. Not excitement from external stimulation. Deep peace regardless of circumstances. When this is priority, choices naturally support it. What supports my peace becomes guiding question for decisions. This prioritization builds peace. Here's what unshakable peace looks like. Someone does something that would have triggered anger before. You notice it. You're not disturbed. Your peace isn't dependent on their good behavior. They can behave poorly. You remain at peace. This isn't suppression. You genuinely aren't disturbed. Your peace is deep enough that their behavior is like small wave hitting large rock. You notice the wave. The rock doesn't move. Compare to fragile peace, same behavior. Your peace depends on them behaving well. They don't. Your peace shatters immediately. You're disturbed and angry. Your peace was conditional on their behavior. They didn't meet condition. Peace disappeared. Here's your practice. Start building unshakable peace through regular contemplative practice. 10 minutes daily minimum. Also practice present moment awareness throughout day. Notice when mind goes to past or future. And return to present. Develop gratitude practice. Daily note 3 things you're grateful for. This trains mind toward appreciation and peace. These practices build foundation for unshakable peace. Combined with other practices in this audiobook, they create peace that external factors can't easily disturb. Build unshakable inner peace. Develop contemplative practice. Cultivate present moment awareness. Connect with something larger. Practice gratitude. Build self-acceptance. Practice equanimity. Cultivate compassion. Simplify life. Build physical health. Make peace your priority. Chapter 9. Respond to provocations strategically. Some people deliberately provoke. They want reaction. They want to get under your skin. They're testing, manipulating, or expressing their own issues through provoking you. How you respond determines whether they succeed in disturbing you. Automatic reactive response is what they want. It proves they have power over you. Strategic response denies them this power. It maintains your peace while often diffusing their provocation. This strategic response is skill that can be learned. Not all provocation is deliberate. Some is unconscious or accidental. But strategic response works for both. Whether deliberate or not, responding strategically rather than reactively protects your peace and usually creates better outcomes. Let me teach you to respond to provocation strategically. First, and to recognize provocation for what it is. Someone trying to get reaction from you. Once you see it as provocation, you're less likely to take bait. They're trying to provoke me. I don't have to take this bait. Without this recognition, provocation feels like genuine attack requiring defense. With recognition, it's just provocation you can choose to ignore. Second, don't give them reaction they want. That's entire point of strategic response. They want you angry or upset. Don't provide it. Stay calm. This denies them their goal and often ends provocation. People who provoke for reaction stop when reaction doesn't come. No reward, no continued behavior. Third, respond with unexpected calm. They expect anger. You're calm. This surprise often diffuses situation. I can see you're trying to get rise from me. Thus, I'm not interested in that game. Naming provocation calmly while refusing to engage is powerful strategic response. Fourth, use humor when appropriate. Humor diffuses tension and shows provocation hasn't worked. Light, non-mocking humor that doesn't escalate. Wow, you're really going for it today. I'm impressed by the commitment. This shows provocation hasn't disturbed you while staying non-hostile. Often effective at ending provocation. Fifth, set clear boundary if needed. I'm not engaging with this. If you want to communicate respectfully, I'm available. Otherwise, I'm leaving this conversation. Then follow through. Boundary without anger shows provocation hasn't worked while protecting yourself from continued exposure. 6. Consider not responding at all. Sometimes silence is most strategic response. They provoke. And you don't respond. Just look at them calmly or walk away. Silence can be very powerful response to provocation. No fuel for fire, fire dies. Non-response is response that denies them desired reaction. Seventh, be curious rather than defensive. What's really going on that you're trying to provoke me? Genuine curiosity rather than angry challenge. This sometimes gets to root issue while avoiding escalation. Curiosity shows you're not disturbed by provocation while possibly opening actual communication. Eighth, agree with provocation when it contains truth. You're right, I did make that mistake. Takes away their ammunition. Can't provoke someone who agrees. This works when provocation contains legitimate criticism delivered provocatively. Agreement removes power from provocation while acknowledging any truth it contains. Ninth, a redirect to what you want to discuss. They provoke on topic A. You say, I'm not discussing that. What I want to discuss is B. Control conversation direction rather than following their provocation. This shows provocation hasn't distracted you while moving to a productive topic. 10th, maintain outcome focus. What outcome do you want from this interaction? Don't let provocation distract from desired outcome. Keep responding in a way that serves outcome rather than reacting to provocation. They're trying to provoke me. I want outcome X. How I respond to provocation should serve X, not their provocation goal. Here's what strategic response looks like. Someone makes insulting comment designed to provoke. You recognize provocation. You pause. You consider strategic response. You respond calmly. I'm not responding to insults. Tomu, if you want to communicate respectfully, I'm available. You've denied them angry reaction. Set boundary, remain calm. Provocation failed. They either adjust communication or you disengage. Either way, you're undisturbed. Compared to reactive response. Same insult. You react angrily. Insult returned. Escalation follows. Exactly what provoker wanted. They've gotten reaction. They've proven they can disturb you. Provocation succeeded. Here's your practice, and next time someone provokes, catch yourself before reacting. Recognize provocation. Choose strategic response. Calm statement, boundary, humor, silence, curiosity, whatever fits situation. Deny them reactive response. Notice outcomes. Strategic response usually creates better outcomes than reactive response. This reinforces strategic approach. Over time, the strategic response becomes automatic. You don't react to provocation, you respond strategically. This makes you very difficult to provoke or disturb. Respond to provocation strategically. Recognize provocation for what it is. Don't give desired reaction. Respond with unexpected calm. Use humor appropriately. Set clear boundary. Consider not responding. Be curious, not defensive. Agree with truth in provocation. Redirect conversation. Maintain outcome focus. Chapter 10. Maintain equanimity under pressure. Equanimity is even-mindedness. Staying calm and balanced regardless of external circumstances. Maintaining equanimity under pressure is ultimate test of emotional mastery. When pressure is high, stakes are significant, and emotions run hot. Can you stay balanced? This capability is what makes you truly unshakable. Most people maintain some calm when things are easy. The test is when things are hard, when criticized harshly, when treated unfairly, when facing serious provocation, when under sustained pressure. Maintaining equanimity then is real mastery. Equanimity isn't cold detachment. It's warm presence without reactivity. You're engaged but not disturbed, caring but not controlled. This balanced engagement is ideal state for handling difficult situations effectively. Let me teach you to maintain equanimity under pressure. First, prepare for pressure situations mentally. Before entering difficult conversation or challenging situation, prepare your mind. This might be difficult. I commit to maintaining equanimity. This preparation activates intention. Going into pressure unprepared, you're likely to react automatically. Preparing activates conscious response capability. Second, use breath as anchor. When pressure rises, attention to breath grounds you. Slow, deep breathing activates parasympathetic nervous system, promoting calm. During pressure, return to breath repeatedly. This simple practice prevents escalation of stress response. Breath is always available anchor for equanimity. Third, maintain observer perspective. Part of you experiences situation. Part observes yourself experiencing it. This observer position creates space between you and reactivity. I notice I'm feeling provoked. I'm observing this without acting on it. This dual awareness prevents identification with emotion that drives reactivity. Fourth, remember your why. Why does equanimity matter to you? What values does it serve? When pressure rises and reactivity tempts, remembering why equanimity matters helps maintain it. I'm committed to equanimity because it serves my peace in relationships is anchor when automatic reactivity pulls. Fifth, focus on long-term over short-term. Short-term angry reaction might feel satisfying. Long-term, it damages relationships and situations. Keeping focus on long-term consequences supports equanimity over reactivity. Hey, how will I feel about this response tomorrow? Usually reveals equanimity serves better than reactivity. Sixth, practice acceptance in real time. As pressure situation unfolds, practice accepting it. This is happening. I accept this reality while responding strategically. This acceptance prevents resistance that fuels reactivity. Fighting reality of difficult situation creates additional suffering. Accepting while responding creates equanimity. Seventh, use pressure as practice opportunity. Instead of resenting pressure situations, see them as training. This is opportunity to practice equanimity under real pressure. This reframe makes pressure valuable rather than purely negative. With this mindset, pressure becomes welcome challenge rather than unwanted burden. Eighth, lower expectations of perfection. You won't maintain perfect equanimity always. Sometimes reactivity will break through. That's okay. Catching yourself mid-reaction and returning to equanimity is success. Perfection isn't required. This self-compassion supports equanimity. Harsh self-judgment when you're not perfectly calm undermines equanimity. Ninth, recover quickly from any loss of equanimity. If you do react, don't spiral. Notice, stop, reset, continue. Quick recovery prevents temporary loss from becoming prolonged reactivity. I reacted. That's done. I'm returning to equanimity now. This quick reset is crucial skill. 10th, build progressive capability. Start with lower pressure situations. Master equanimity there. Gradually tackle higher pressure situations. This progressive development builds capability without overwhelming you. In trying to maintain equanimity in highest pressure situations without practice in lower pressure ones is setting yourself up for failure. Here's what equanimity under pressure looks like. You're in heated discussion. Others are yelling. Emotions are high. Stakes feel significant. You remain calm. You're engaged but not reactive. You listen. You respond thoughtfully. You don't match their intensity. Your equanimity often de-escalates situation. When you don't match intensity, escalation stops. Others often calm to match your energy. Your equanimity serves situation. Even if others don't calm, you maintain peace. You're not disturbed despite high pressure. This is ultimate proof of emotional mastery. Compare to losing equanimity. Same situation. You match their intensity. Yelling escalates. Anger builds. Situation spirals. When afterwards you regret reaction. But in moment, equanimity was lost. Here's your practice. Identify upcoming pressure situation. Prepare mentally for maintaining equanimity. During situation, use breath as anchor. Maintain observer perspective. Remember your why. Focus long-term. Accept reality. See it as practice. Be self-compassionate. Recover quickly if needed. After situation, review. How was your equanimity? Where did you succeed? Where did you struggle? What will you do differently next time? This review builds capability. With repeated practice in progressively challenging situations, equanimity becomes strong enough to withstand severe pressure. This is when you become truly unshakable. Maintain equanimity under pressure. Prepare mentally. Use breath as anchor. Maintain observer perspective. Remember your why. Focus long-term. Practice acceptance. Use pressure as practice. Lower expectations of perfection. Recover quickly. build progressive capability. We've explored 10 essential dimensions of never getting angry or bothered by anyone. Understanding that others can't make you angry, recognizing anger as your interpretation, choosing your response consciously, developing emotional detachment without coldness, seeing others' behavior as information, not insult, releasing need for others to be different, accepting what you can't control, building unshakable inner peace, responding to provocations strategically, and maintaining equanimity under pressure. These aren't just concepts to understand, they're capabilities to develop. Emotional mastery is built through practice, through applying these principles repeatedly until they become automatic, through choosing conscious response over automatic reaction until choice becomes natural. But understanding these dimensions changes nothing without implementation. You can know that anger is your choice and still choose anger automatically. You can recognize others can't make you angry and still give them that power. You can agree with everything in this audiobook and continue being reactive. So here's the question. Will you actually develop emotional mastery? Will you do the work to never be angry or bothered? Will you practice these capabilities until anger becomes optional? Most people won't. They'll continue being reactive, continue letting others control their emotional state, continue suffering unnecessarily. You can be different. You can actually master your emotions. You can develop capability to never be angry or bothered by anyone, but it requires commitment to taking responsibility for your emotional state, to practicing conscious response, to building inner peace regardless of outer circumstances. Because here's what's at stake. As long as others can make you angry, you're not free. You're controlled by external factors you can't control. Your peace depends on others behaving well. Your emotional state depends on circumstances being pleasant. This dependence is imprisonment. Emotional mastery is freedom. Freedom from being controlled by others' behavior. Freedom from dependence on circumstances. Freedom to maintain peace regardless of external factors. This freedom is available through the work. Right now, your anger is probably costing you. Energy wasted on reactivity. Relationships damaged by anger. Health harmed by chronic irritation. Peace destroyed by constant disturbance. All unnecessary, all preventable through emotional mastery. This continues until you develop mastery, until you learn that no one can make you angry without your consent, until you build unshakable peace that external factors can't disturb. 6 months from now, you could be emotionally unshakable. Others' behavior wouldn't trigger anger. Provocations wouldn't disturb you. You'd maintain peace regardless of circumstances, all because you developed emotional mastery. Or you could still be reactive, still getting angry easily, still bothered constantly, still giving others power over your emotional state. The difference is whether you do the work. Here's what I want you to do. Starting today, first, commit to taking responsibility for your emotional state. No more "they made me angry." From now on, I made myself angry by how I interpreted and responded. This linguistic and mental shift is foundation. Second, choose one dimension to focus on this week. Maybe recognizing anger as interpretation. Maybe choosing response consciously. Maybe seeing behavior as information. Choose one. Practice it deliberately in every situation this week. Third, start daily contemplative practice. 10 minutes minimum. Meditation, prayer, reflection, whatever form works for you. This builds foundation for emotional mastery. Fourth, catch and redirect anger as it arises. Notice interpretation starting. Pause. Choose different interpretation or response. Do this every time anger starts this week. Fifth, track your progress. How many times did you catch anger before reacting? How many times did you choose conscious response? And how many times did you maintain equanimity under pressure? This tracking builds awareness and motivation. These 5 actions, started today, begin your journey to emotional mastery. After 1 week, add another dimension. After 1 month, notice transformation. After 3 months, substantial mastery develops. After 6 months, you're emotionally unshakable. But this only develops if you start, if you actually implement, if you commit to the work regardless of how long it takes. Emotional mastery is ultimate freedom. Freedom from being controlled by others. Freedom from dependence on circumstances. Freedom to maintain peace regardless of provocation. This freedom is available to anyone willing to do the work. Stop letting others make you angry. Stop giving them power over your emotional state. And stop suffering unnecessarily from anger and disturbance. Start developing emotional mastery. Start taking responsibility. Start building unshakable peace. This is your power. This is your freedom. This is your opportunity to master emotions that have mastered you, to build peace that nothing external can disturb, to become unshakable regardless of circumstances. Your anger has limited you. Your reactivity has controlled you. Your disturbance has made you suffer. This ends when you develop mastery, when you take control of your emotional state, when you build peace that's unconditional. You can never be angry or bothered by anyone, not because no one will ever do anything annoying or offensive, because you'll have developed capability to remain at peace regardless. This capability is freedom beyond what most people imagine possible. We'll learn to never get angry or bothered by anyone, not through suppression or denial, through genuine mastery, through understanding that creates peace, through practice that builds capability. The emotional mastery that changes everything is available. The peace that nothing can disturb is possible. The freedom from reactivity is real. But it requires work. Work of taking responsibility. Work of conscious response. Work of building inner peace. Work of practicing despite difficulty. This work is worth it. The freedom it creates is profound. The peace it builds is unshakable. The life it enables is transformed. Never get angry or bothered by anyone. Not someday when circumstances improve. Today through developing mastery. Not when others behave better. Now, regardless of how they behave, the choice is yours. The power is yours. The work starts now. Choose emotional mastery. Build unshakable peace. Become free.